All right, hello and welcome back to my newest video. We are going to be reviewing the newest expansion of the Brockhampton solo careers, and this is going to be The Changing of the Trees by Dom McLennon. Only a week after Matt Champion debuted his first solo project, we are now getting Dom going into his, and I was very excited to see what Dom would do as in Brockhampton, his role was always the master rapper. He was the poet. He was easily the most skilled wordsmith of all of the members. And so it made me really excited to see what he could do on his own. I firmly believed he could carry a full project on his own. The only thing is this has no features. I wanted to see how he would do. Or I shouldn't say there are no features. The only features on this are for production. But still, I was very excited to see. I think that Dom is massively underrated in Brockhampton and as a solo artist. He's underrated in all aspects. And yeah, so First Offering is a nice opener for the album with these really light guitar licks layered with a pretty soft percussion arrangement. It makes for a softer entrance, but one that still has a great pace and a nice flow to it. And Dom quickly shows that he has not lost any of his skill within these 2 years that it has taken for him to release this, and that he has been working and that he is still better than ever. And I think that it is a great start to the project. The second song, Sculptor's Request, sees the production switch a little bit. It's got this really nice electric guitar for under the instrumental before it kind of drops it off. And you have this really nice atmospheric kind of spacious drum pattern through the basically the main section of the track, and it feels just very vast, which
is really nice.
And it feels very much like it is just you and Dom in this space, like he is rapping to you. A lot of this album feels very personal, not in the sense that he's like opening up a ton. Of course he does, he always has, and that's one of my favorite things about Dom is that he is never afraid to open up about things, and we will get to that a little bit later in the track list. But it feels very personal in the sense of like you feel like it's just you and him in this room, like it's just you in the studio with him and he's rapping to you, which I really like. It feels very intimate. That's a good word to describe it. But as I did say that with the electric guitar that's on the intro of this, I really love that, and I wish that could have come in a little bit more through maybe certain points of him rapping. Just put that in there instead of just on the intro and the outro, and I think even in the middle section just a little bit, but again, he's not rapping on it. Unfortunately, that just doesn't happen, but that would have been nice, and I think really would have added something to that. Dom adds some slight but welcoming vocal pitching on Amongst Swords, and of course, if you listen to Brockhampton, vocal pitching is a very common occurrence, as they took inspiration from Frank Ocean and Tyler the Creator with that. And so we see a bit of that here, which I thought was a good change up a little bit from the last two songs. And of course, we get just some amazing wordplay and this lush production and a guitar sample that reminds me of Maybe Tomorrow by Grant Green, which, if I say that, many people will probably not know it, but it is the sample that Kendrick Lamar used on Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst from Good Kid, Mad City. And so it sounds a lot like that, although I know it probably isn't, but it's just really nice and smooth and just is really nice. One of my favorite tracks from the project. Generations feels a bit like an interlude, with it being, just barely over 2 minutes. It has a much lighter beat and features no percussion until the very end, which was, I think, a pretty nice stylistic choice. Just having him rapping over just a piano and a very light bass line up until the end when his rapping stops, and then that's when the percussion starts I think an interesting artistic choice and a nice one. And I think it makes for one of the most interesting moments on the entire project, even though it is the shortest moment on the project. River was the only single release prior to the project's release that actually made it onto the LP, and personally, I'm glad because of all of the singles that he released. I think this was easily the best one. Some of the other ones that he released didn't have the best mixing, or maybe just not Dom's best writing to date. I mean, it's hard for someone who is usually, in my opinion, credited to have the best verses on a Brockhampton song when he appears. As I said, he's always been such like a powerhouse when it comes to his wordplay and just his rapping capabilities. And so River, I'm glad, made it on here. I was really hoping that it would for whenever this album came out, and it just instantly, as I said, reminded me of what he could do before, and he's not afraid to dive into these sensitive topics like depression and self-doubt and just his personal struggles in general, and he does all that while still gliding over this really nice production, and he makes it all seem so smooth and so seamless. And I do really love, actually, on the outro of this, there is a very nice piano section that goes on, and that is one of my favorite moments on the project. Again, you can hear that Dom clearly has an ear for these very nice production choices that he makes, and no doubt he had a hand in all of the makings of each of these songs. And the piano actually leads really nicely into the next song, Gym Hours, which on this one, Dom raps about self-forgiveness, reflection, and even his difference from the masses of like other musicians. And the song also features an instrumental outro, but this one is a little bit longer and I think really ramps up through its runtime. Yeah, I was waiting for a Griselda type of vocal sample to join in for the folds on Russian Cream. If you listen to it, it sounds very much like it could be a Griselda type of production. Just all you need is like some old soul sample to come in through it. But you actually get this really grimy, like 90s underground rap style of vocal filter on Dom. It reminds me of like some of the early like Wu-Tang stuff where, you know, you're kind of just recording with what you have, and it doesn't sound bad. It's just like, it's not like this like super clean, like polished thing. And so I really like that. And I think that just massively fits the project's whole style that we are already getting so far. I actually would have maybe liked to see more of that on that, because it is kind of a stark contrast to be getting these pretty clean vocals from Dom, and then all of a sudden on like the second to last track, you get this all of a sudden this like really grimy, as I said, like underground style of vocal filter on him. But he does sound really hungry on this whole track, and you can almost like he's on like the edge of like breaking. Like it's very emotional, like he is very intense on the track, and so I think it just makes for one of the best moments. Lastly, we have For the Block, which does massively change up for the rest, or from the rest of the album, which on this one we see Dom getting melodic. This entire track that he is on, I mean, he is rapping, but it's a melodic rap experience. And I really like that. I think it was a much needed change of pace, and I will get to that more on the end of why. But yeah, it's a really nice just round out to the project, and I think that even though the instrumental could use a little bit more, I do think that the style of the vocal delivery is a really nice job for the ending. Ends off on a bit of a lighter note. It's not so heavy as different points of the album really are. This makes it not all seem so dark and so bleak. So I really like that. Overall, I do really like what Dom is doing on this project, but the thing that, in my personal opinion, really drags it down is that Dom has no hooks on this entire thing. There is not a single moment that repeats on the project, and there's also no guest features that have vocal performances. Now, is that necessary? No. But when you don't have any hooks, you don't have any bridges or even like these intros or outros to these songs, and you don't have any guest features, it is literally just 8 tracks that are all just like either one long verse, or he has like
2 or 3 verses,
but it's just a short instrumental break before he gets back into it. So it is kind of hard to I guess follow along in a sense. Like, you don't get this very forgiving sort of structure to the songs. Of course, like, I'm not saying that Dom needs to be like formulaic and have just a very simple song structure and layout to his albums in the future, but it does make it a little bit easier to follow along because he does pack his songs, as I have said multiple times, with this grand wordplay, and he is a fantastic writer, but I do think he needs to change that up a little bit, and it does make a lot of the songs very samey. Like, they're very similar in the sense of like the no hooks and just no change up in the just the structure of it all. Like, even having, he does have different flows on different songs, but if he would have like one song where he's doing just like a drastically different flow. Like, I'm not saying it has to be like crazy, like he doesn't have to switch to like a Danny Brown sort of flow and like do this crazy voice, but just having something that was like very different from what he was doing, I think would be good at changing it up. And so I'm hoping that in the future we do get more stuff like that. But in my opinion, having like the no hooks, no guest appearances to change it up really brings the album down. And it does make it, unfortunately, drag on. And when your project is only 8 songs, that is very unfortunate to say that it drags, because it shouldn't. It's 8 songs. It is just about 24 minutes long. And so when it starts to drag after that short time, that's, really not good. But, yeah, that is the base of my review. We're not going to get into the highest high section. For best vocal performance, I'm going to give to For the Block. As I said, this is the very nice breath of fresh air that the album needed on the very end, with Dom's very nice melodic performances. I would like to see him do this more in the future. I'm not sure if maybe he didn't do any hooks because he's maybe just not confident with himself in doing these melodic performances, but I think he did a nice job here. And yeah, just my favorite vocal performance of his on here is when he changed it up. Best production, I'm going to give to Generations. As I did talk about that, even though it was short, I think that it was one of the most interesting moments on the project production-wise. Best songwriting, I'm going to give to Jim Hours. As I said, one of Dom's most introspective cuts, with the whole self-forgiveness and just the very personal writing that he has across that whole song. My favorite line is going to be, with the spirit of a phoenix, you can live while getting burned. I just think that is really nice, and I think it massively encapsulates sort of like what being famous is like. You have to have this spirit of a phoenix, as he says, because people are going to constantly be berating you and insulting you. And I think that this project does very good at getting that across. Overall, as I said, I massively enjoyed this. I would rate this at about a 70%. I'm really hoping to see more from Dom in the future, although I would understand if it does take a little bit. I know it seems to be someone who is like a really master of his craft and really takes his time to hone in on what he wants to make. So if we have to wait a little bit, that's fine. I'm just very excited to see what's to come. Hopefully it does change up a little bit. Maybe he gets some features in on here. And if not, I really hope for some hooks and some different some different song structure to his projects. I think that this album, he does lay out a really nice groundwork for himself, much as I said for Matt's first album. This is him laying out this really nice groundwork, and this will be really good for him to build and expand upon on future projects. So yeah, that is my review. You can find all my links for where I am on all different socials in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye now.